Welcome to episode 45 of the Bibliophile series. In this article, in Asahi Shimbun, the newspaper from Japan, we'll be looking at a phenomenon called museum bathing and how it impacts the visitors who come to the museum and engage in it. Let's see. Visiting a museum or an art gallery may help people feel calmer and happier, according to researchers who are investigating the phenomenon they call museum bathing. In June, a team led by Izumi Ogata, a specially appointed professor of museology, study of museums, at Kyushu Sangyo University, a university based out of Japan, conducted an experiment at the National Museum of Western Art in Tokyo's Ueno district. I don't know if the correct pronunciation is Ueno, but let's say it is that. In the study, 41 people, 23 of them 23 of whom were 65 years or older, and 18 of whom were in their 20s. So from 30 to 64, nobody of that age was present, and nobody lower than 20. So these 41 people visited the museum. Changes in their blood pressure and psychological state, among other aspects, were examined. First, the test subjects viewed and exhibited works in silence for 20 minutes. So for the first half, they viewed the works and everything that was on display in silence. And next, they viewed the exhibits for 20 minutes while conversing with others, while talking with others. Blood pressure, pulse rate, mood, and emotional state were measured 3 times: before the viewing started, after the first viewing, and after the second viewing. After viewing the exhibited works, both the older and younger test subjects tended to show lower indicators for negative states such as anger, fatigue, tension, confusion, and depression. So, engaging with the displayed material, looking at the material that was on display in the museum, it led to lower indicators of negative states that are listed here. On the other hand, indicators for liveliness and other positive states rose after the second viewing. I was surprised to see a visible reduction in negative emotions, said Kana Anzai, a senior student at Toyo University who majors in tourism studies, who participated in the experiment. So one of the subjects of these studies, Kana Anzai, he was surprised to see the results. The research team began the experiment in September 2020. So far, more than 1,000 test subjects and 75 museums have participated. So this was for a specific experiment, and then they have continued with the process. More than 1,000 test subjects and 75 museums have taken part in this experiment. The experiment has been conducted in different types of museums, such as history, archaeology, folklore, and fine arts, for different lengths of time. Basically, this is one of the identifying parameters before you call a hypothesis valid. You try to change every parameter. And see if that has a causal relationship with the final outcome. If it does not, then that factor is to be ignored. But if it does have a causal relationship, not necessarily entirely causal, but let's say more causal than more correlated than causal. If it has a correlated result, then you can perhaps draw some inferences from it. The results have consistently shown an effect on relaxation, according to the researchers. Museum bathing has an effect on the function of activating human homeostasis. Homeostasis is the state of calm and state of tranquility in human beings. Homeostasis is maintaining the human function at the current level, at good current level, Ogata said. In 2019, a group of researchers from the University of London reported that a survey of about 6,000 people showed that residents of communities with high exposure to cultural arts had significantly lower mortality rates than those who had no exposure at all. So this is an addendum. The hypothesis that was being tested in the experiment here, it is being further substantiated by a sideways issue from 2019. Group of researchers looked at 6,000 residents. Those who were exposed to culture, lower mortality rates. Those who were not exposed to culture had higher mortality rate. In the same year, the World Health Organization compiled a report that concluded that arts contribute to health throughout life. The conclusion was based on more than 3,000 studies conducted around the world. Essentially, what they're saying is this was not a one-off experiment that gave us a result. It has been reproduced with different parameters several times over, and the results remain consistent. According to the Education Ministry, and this is the Education Ministry of Japan, according to the Education Ministry, there were more than 5,700 museums in Japan, but citizens on average visit one only about 1.2 times in the fiscal 2018. In the year 2018, every people visited a museum about 1.2 times. If it can be proven that even a 10 or 20-minute visit to museum can relieve stress, it may draw in new visitors, Ogata said. Masayuki Tanaka, director of National Museum of Western Art, said that many people feel extra pressure that they have to understand the paintings, and that presents a hurdle to visiting museums. Basically, people who believe their aesthetic sensibilities are not very advanced, they feel like, what is the point of visiting a museum? But the counter to that is, if the health benefits are proven, such thinking of a museum visitor will change too. Even if I don't understand it, even if it is not entirely comprehensible to me, as at least I will get some health benefit out of it. Maybe that encourages people to turn up. Nikito Yamada, the deputy director of Central Japan International Medical Center in Gifu Prefecture, this would be a specific area, said, I assume that with the sympathetic nervous system strained by stresses of daily life, taking the time to view a museum will relax you and stabilize your pulse and blood pressure. Now, see, what he is talking of is conjecture. He is simply making a statement. He assumes, he is conjecturing, he is guessing. But then there have been experiments conducted all throughout the world that are in line with his assumption that he's making. Yamada added, however, I cannot say that it is medically effective. I hope that further data will be accumulated. He says we need more data in order to conclusively say that visiting a museum has health benefits associated with it. Without that, we cannot make that statement right now. And that is the end of this article. Essentially, what this article talks about is if you visit a museum, even a 10 to 20-minute museum visit, tends to reduce your negative indicators and tends to boost your positive indicators. And this has been substantiated by experiments all over the world. And perhaps this could be a new reasoning why people who don't visit museums often end up going there. That will be all for this episode. See you in the next one.